let's begin, as we often do on Facing the Future, with the alarming fiscal outlook in the United States. And since your testimony, we've had another budget baseline produced by the Congressional Budget Office.
We have, and even that budget baseline is overly optimistic, as it seems that our current political leaders are converging on using a so-called current policy baseline to likely extend the 2017 tax cuts. So we need to take the Congressional Budget Office 10-year outlook with a heap of salt because they assume that those tax cuts will be allowed to expire, or at least that they will be offset, and neither seems very likely at this point. So take the CBO baseline and add about 4 to 5 additional trillion in deficits to it. And as it is, our debt trajectory is already highly unsustainable. Instead of like rattling off a bunch of different numbers, I'd like to just focus on a couple of key ones. And one is just the sheer size of our publicly held debt, which is the measure that I'm most concerned with. At about $29 trillion, it's as large as the US economy, our gross domestic product. So 100% of GDP roughly. And over the next 30 years, I like to take a look at the longer term outlook for trends. We will exceed 150, potentially 170 or higher. 200% of GDP is possible, especially if the tax cuts will be extended without additional deficit reduction. And while there are countries that have higher levels of debt to GDP than that, they've also suffered commensurate consequences. A lot of people like to point to Japan and say, oh, we'll be fine. Japan, has had 250% debt to GDP ratios, and they didn't implode. Yes, but they've also suffered decades of economic stagnation. And the lack of opportunity has also contributed to a decline in the Japanese population, which is further exacerbating their fiscal challenges. And so I wouldn't point at Japan and say, we'll be fine. Rather, I would point at Japan and say, there's a huge opportunity cost to being a country in such high debt. And it includes a loss of confidence among your population, which contributes to a decline in fertility and contributes to then depressing long-term economic growth, and also making all of our fiscal challenges worse, because so much of government spending relies on providing benefits for people who are now retired by taxing younger workers. And if we know that our group of retirees is growing thanks to advances in health and longevity. People are living longer, which is a good thing and something we should celebrate. But if we don't have the workers coming in to help fund those entitlement promises, then you find yourself with an increasing old age dependency ratio, where fewer and fewer workers are responsible for the benefits for a rising number of retirees. We're down to 2.8 workers, or 2.7 might have been the latest outlook for Social Security, for who pays in and per a person who gets a benefit from the program. And that's becoming increasingly unsustainable as that is declining.